March, at the Saemaeul Traditional Market, Lee Jae-myung, the leader of the Democratic Party, proposed to issue 250,000 South Korean wons per person to all citizens to restore the economy. However, President Yoon Suk-yeol strongly opposed the proposal, saying that indiscriminate cash aid and populism would ruin the country's future. Today, let's learn about the opinions of those in favor and against the Civil Recovery Support Fund. First, those favoring the fund mention revitalizing self-employed businesses as their most significant reason. Lee said that the fund would be paid in local currency, just as it was for disaster aid during the COVID-19 pandemic, expecting it to revitalize small local businesses. For the same reason, Young Hae-in of the Basic Income Party said that the funding is necessary to prevent the self-employed from going bankrupt and spending additional money on various welfare expenses. Another argument of the proponents is that the amount of money needed to pay the support fund is relatively small. Lee stated that the amount required to fund the subsidy is 13 trillion won, which he claimed could be handled by changing the current government's tax system. In response to the criticism that the funding is populist propaganda, he pointed out that policies for the majority cannot be considered populist and that government policies should be for the ordinary people, not the rich. To summarize, their argument is that the amount of money needed for the fund is relatively small and necessary as it will help boost domestic demand. Those who oppose the subsidy argue that it will cause further inflation. Professor Gregory Mankiw, author of Principles of Economics, claimed in the 9th of the 10 Principles of Economics that prices rise when the government prints too much money. When too much money gets released into the market by the government, the value of money decreases, which leads to needing more money to buy the same product as before. The ruling party criticized the support fund as a populist policy, to the point that even the Confederation of Trade Unions would criticize it. Another point that the opponents of the fund make is that the program may waste the national funds. The proponents argue that 13 trillion won to be spent on the program is a relatively small amount, but the opponents voice that it is not negligible. In fact, in the first quarter of 2024, the Korean government borrowed money from the Bank of Korea to cover its financial shortage. The opponents assert that taking on an additional 13 trillion won in such a situation is too much of a burden on the national finances.